let's get busy with the truth. Welcome to the Ignition News.
I know exactly where to push start on the live recording in the studio. And there we are. Good morning, everyone. It is officially February 25th. I'm here to report to you the State of the Union. And the State of the Union is wildly crazy. Obviously, last night was an insane speech by the president. Well, we're going to get into that. I have just 3 stories today because a lot of it is going to center around that vicious web of lies told in the halls of Congress last night. I do want to make sure that we cover some of the key facts about that and talk about it on today's version of the Ignition News. Good morning. Please consider following us on your favorite platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, any one of those. It helps to grow the platform. And if you like Twitch, we do broadcast on Twitch every day. We're trying to cross a big milestone over on Twitch. So on the Purple app, go ahead and hop over there. But we are currently streaming on YouTube, Twitch, somewhere else that I don't know, Substack, and TikTok. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. We are your number one source for unfiltered, unbiased information. So let's get into it. Obviously, there is a lot to talk about. I hear. Oh, okay. There we go. Every time I do a show on Wednesday, no matter what time I start, that's the time the leaf blowers start, no matter when. So if you ever want to know when they're going to be blowing leaves in my neighborhood, they're going to be doing it whenever I do the show on Wednesday, regardless of the time. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, doesn't matter. Either way. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. Last night, the President of the United States stood before Congress and lied. Not once, not twice, but dozens of times. He said egg prices are down 60%. They're down 48%. He said he added 70,000 construction jobs. The real number is 44,000. He said cheating is rampant in our elections, but every independent study knows that is false. He called his tax bill the largest in American history and the largest and the best, I guess he said. But several nonpartisan tax organizations say it is the 6th largest. He lied repeatedly in the halls of Congress. And here's why it matters and why we're going to dig into it today. Those lies are not just random. They're packaging around a product that is right now arming a domestic military force to the teeth, and a product that is strong-arming technology and technology leaders, well, to come after us. So yeah, this is the Ignition News. Let's dig into it. I'm wearing sunglasses today just to spice things up a little bit. I'm so sorry I was not able to do the Ignition News yesterday. I'm stuck between 2 spaces right now. We have this old space that I use and the studio. And unfortunately, there's just been a lot of technical challenges getting that space set up. And I wasn't able to use either space yesterday. And so, yeah, we were out yesterday. I apologize for that. But we're back. We're back here with you today. Good morning. So let's go ahead and start with that speech on the Ignition News, because obviously before we can talk about what this administration is actually doing, we need to establish what it is telling you that it is doing. And those 2 things are very, very far apart. So Trump delivered what I would call the longest, what felt like the longest State of the Union in history. And if you watched it, you heard a man that is clearly slipping away in front of us cognitively. He told you he lifted, let me just start with this one. I think the most egregious. He said he, quote, lifted 2.4 million people off of food stamps. What they didn't tell you is that they, quote, lifted those people off of food stamps by stripping the food stamps from them and by adding work requirements from the big, beautiful bill. Requirements, by the way, that cut off veterans, that cut off people experiencing homelessness, that cut off parents whose oldest child is 14. He did not lift these people out of poverty. He literally kicked them in the ass into poverty. He pushed them off the rolls. They said, well, we're not counting you as poor anymore. We're just not counting you. And I think it's important because when you talk about that, he also talked about crime. He talked about crime in Washington, D.C. He said that crime in Washington, D.C. is the lowest that it's ever been. Well, tell that to the 322 cars stolen in Washington, D.C. this year alone. And it is true that crime is down in Washington, D.C., of course, but that is a trend that has been happening for years since the president took office. I can't do this with the sunglasses on. I'm sorry. I'll have to do it with the regular glasses on. I've got my serial killer glasses on now. He said his tax bill was the largest tax bill in history. It's not. It's the sixth largest tax bill in history. But even that is inconsequential because the tax breaks are going to the wealthiest 1%. Yes, there's no tax on tips, but did you know that you can only claim $25,000 for those tips and that you have to be filing, for example, you have to itemize your expenses. And by the way, if you're married, only one of you can claim that. He said cheating is rampant in American elections, but multiple studies have proven that this is not the case. In fact, the only one that seems willing to cheat in elections is Donald Trump himself. He blamed Joe Biden for the almost 12,000 murders committed by undocumented immigrants. The DHS's own data cannot verify when those people entered the country, by the way. Many arrived decades ago. Many of them arrived under his first administration, or under the George Bush administration, or under the Obama administration. But here's the point. This isn't just someone who stretches the truth. This is a deliberate, systemic, and coordinated attack. It is a coordinated attack of disinformation, and it serves a purpose. You tell people crime is rampant where crime is not rampant. And then what can you do? Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. You tell people elections are rigged when they're not rigged. What can you do? Just adjust that camera there. Right? You tell people that you're kicking or that you have lifted people out of poverty when you actually kicked them away from food stamps. What can you do? You can take them away from more people. It's a systemic, coordinated campaign of lies. And here's why it matters. The next story. Welcome to the Ignition News, everybody. I'm so sorry. I got to adjust this camera. It looks like it's about to fall over. Can't have that happening. There's some pretty dramatic reporting about what is happening with ICE. There's a framework that we really need to talk about, and it's a pretty chilling framework around that. One reporter called it the forever war. And once you see it, you really can't unsee it. The same thing that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan is about to happen here in the United States of America. DHS has committed to spending $144 million on guns, ammunition, and weapons in the first year of the Trump administration. ICE's spending on weapons quadrupled into 2025 compared to the previous year. Customs and Border Patrol doubled its weapons contract. So they're talking about AR military specs, thousands of Glock handguns. Good luck, TikTok. Good luck. $30 million worth of ammunition, $25 million in less than lethal weapons. And if you think about that carefully, that means tasers, pepper spray, tear gas, the green gas, right? All that stuff. These are not tools to stop border crossings, everyone. These are not tools to protect the border. They are tools to arm an American Gestapo. I mean, there's really no way around it. Trump is building a well-funded, poorly trained paramilitary force that could easily take on a life of its own. In fact, it is indeed already taking on a life of its own. We've seen federal agents threaten to taser protesters. We've seen them shoot pepper balls directly into the head of a priest. And the ICE recruiting messaging is where you want to look for exactly that. One reporter described ICE as an employment program for the Trumpian proletarian mob, right? So we know about the forever wars from Iraq and Afghanistan. We're about to see that happen in the United States of America. What happens? Why are they stockpiling ammunition? Why are they stockpiling weapons? They're not just buying weapons, by the way. I just want to make sure I'm very, very clear on this. ICE, DHS, CBP, I mean, it's all the same organization. They are stockpiling weapons. Why? Why is ICE stockpiling weapons? Ammunition. That's the one that I think is really telling. $30 million worth of ammunition. Think about that for a second. $30 million worth of ammunition. And we're about to see that forever war come home in a different way, which is technology. Today, I want to talk to you about the last story, but they all tie together. This is perhaps, I think, the most disheartening story, by the way, of everything. It's about Anthropic. And Anthropic did something that is, I think, a major red flag, especially after you talk about the president exiting his disastrous State of the Union. You talk about ICE equipping and stockpiling weapons. Anthropic is an AI company. It runs the AI software most people call Claude. And they had some pretty strong safeguards up. They make that Claude AI system as well. They were actually founded by people who left OpenAI because specifically they were worried about AI safety. Their whole brand and identity was built around being the responsible AI partner. Yesterday, they ditched their core AI safety promise. The reason that they did this is that the Pentagon has been pressuring them to basically take the guardrails off of their AI system so that they could use that AI system for other things in the military, specifically autonomous weapons use, AI targeting, systemic targeting. And Anthropic said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you use it to automatically target human beings. We're not going to allow you to use it for mass surveillance. And so the Pentagon, led by Pete Kegsbreath, said, okay, then we're just going to make you a critical supplier. So anyone who uses you is not going to be able to do business with the United States federal government and the military specifically. That's fine. You can refuse to let us use your AI to kill people. You just won't have a company anymore. Anthropic published a blog post announcing they were replacing that 2-year-old responsible scaling policy with a, quote, more flexible framework. The old policy included a hard commitment. If Anthropic's AI models became powerful enough that the company couldn't ensure that they were safe and controlled, they would pause development. Full stop. Hard break. Now that commitment is gone. Their new framework is not a hard commitment, but rather public goals that will openly grade our progress towards, in other words, vibes. Now, to be clear, there's two things happening here in the same breath. Anthropic says that the policy change is not related to excess pressure, but the Pentagon seems a lot happier with this policy change, right? They are still saying that they will not allow AI to autonomously control weapons, and they will not allow AI to be used for mass domestic surveillance of American citizens. That's claims that they are saying that they're not going to cross. But here's where there's a flaw. The Pentagon is threatening them for holding those lines. As I just said, they threatened to designate them as critical to the supply chain, meaning that if you have a company and you use Anthropic, you can't do business with the military. But now it looks like Anthropic is slowly backing away and backing away and backing away from that commitment. So how do all of these things tie together, right? How do they come together as one piece? You have the State of the Union, which was a massive, painful performance. You have a 2-hour exercise in telling you a false, fake version of America, one where crime is apparently gone, one where elections are being simultaneously stolen while there's no crime, where immigrants are pouring in from other countries and mental institutions. Of course, none of that is true, but it is all necessary because we have ICE rapidly building up a stockpile of weapons. Deportation is so far off target that they're not even actively publishing the deportation targets anymore. They're not publishing that information. We kind of just have to take them at their vibes. Then you have the government pressuring an AI company to remove critical guardrails of safety. This is not at all abstract. It's not a conspiracy. It is a documented, well-funded effort to strip you of your democracy in plain view. And that's the wildest thing about it. I think most of us would have assumed that they would be a bit more nefarious about it, that perhaps they would be a bit more clever in their kleptocracy. Whether it's the grift or whether it's the blatant lies or the harm. The president of the United States mocking the female hockey team at the Olympics, a hockey team which, by the way, has won gold 3 times since 1980 compared to 1 time for the men. A Defense Department which is simultaneously purging itself of the most qualified military operators, being run by a Fox News host, and who is now openly pressuring AI companies. All of the guardrails and the fabrics of what we used to call democracy have stripped away. And yet, here we are. We are gearing up towards something very different. And I think the little feather in the wind that I see is happening in Maine. So let me tell you about the final part of this and why I think that we are on the verge of something massive and why I think you should have hope. In Maine, you've got Janet Mills, a longtime Democrat establishment governor. 46% approval, mildly popular Democrat governor. You also have Graham Plattner, who is a progressive populist candidate. Graham Plattner, by all accounts, should not be campaigning anymore. His campaign should be over. He was plagued by scandal from some troublesome Reddit posts. He obviously had a tattoo that was apparently a Nazi symbol. He's covered up that tattoo. He said he's learned from those things. But in a traditional Democratic race, someone like Graham Plattner should be done. His campaign would be over. At the very least, his polling would be over. But the thing that happened is, in spite of all of that, he has actually surged in support. And that is in spite of a massive Democratic establishment effort, well-funded, well-coordinated, well-structured attack on Graham Plattner. And what's happening is Plattner is dominating in the polls. He's walloping in the polls, 64% to Janet Mills, 26%. And I understand that there are people who really are not able to move past Plattner as a candidate because of the issues from his past. That is not the discussion for today. The discussion I want you to believe in today is enough of your brothers and sisters on the street believe as you believe that it is time for revolutionary change in America right now. It is time for fundamental progressive populism. And it is time for us to no longer be ashamed of that fundamental progressive populism. It is time for us to wrestle power back from the billionaires. Progressive populism is simple. It combines the very popular policies of the left with a policy of we, the people. Not the oligarchs, not the political class, the working class. And yes, it is a different direction for American politics. There is a portion of progressive populism where we have to bring ourselves in first. And I know this is unpopular when I say this, but part of what has traditionally been a value of the left is that we want to look out for everybody, right? And we do. There's no question about it. But we can't look out for everybody while our house is burning down. And our house here is burning down. So for some period of time, the American people do have to lean in. We have to take care of our house so that we can take care of the rest of the world. We are simply not exercising effective foreign policy because the bulk of our foreign policy is controlled by the apparatus of a corrupt president and a political class which for some reason is not able to speak out against AIPAC. We're about to go to war with Iran, apparently. Ask yourself, how does that benefit you? Iran is so dysfunctional right now. It is plagued with drought, and it's going to have to move its capital city out of Tehran because they're running out of water. They are not a threat to you. Your children, your money have no place in bombing Iran right now. So we have to start looking in so that we can improve the rotting infrastructure in our country, the rotting education infrastructure, our healthcare systems. And I know that for some people, that is a difficult message to hear. But we have to start taking care of America first because we have broken the core fundamentals of this country. And I think that part of it, if I'm being honest with you, is because we care. And because we have been willing to invest outwards, and while we have been willing to invest outwards, the political class and the oligarchs have been robbing us blind. And so what you see in Maine could well be a flashpoint, not just for the Democratic Party, but for American politics in general. And what I would close out with is this. Be aggressive in asking for what you need from the political class. Be progressive in asking what you need from the political class. The Democratic Party establishment, I believe, is clearly crumbling in front of us. This is very evident in what's happening, even with someone like Plattner, who has a troubling past. And listen, I just want to be very clear with you. If you can't get past that stuff, I have no judgment for you. But I think what the American public is starting to realize is that this idea that there is a perfect politician is actually actively harming us. Because a perfect politician is someone like Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer or, in my state, Catherine Cortez Masto. A perfect politician is not willing to take the risks necessary to save your life. We are dying out here. We are starving out here. We are being strangled by the system. Perfect people have not saved us. Perfect people have not helped us to get out of it. In fact, perfect people have made it worse. Nancy Pelosi was a perfect politician. Some call her a genius. Nancy Pelosi is a multi-hundred millionaire. In that same period of time, you have become less wealthy, less food secure, less housing secure. Your healthcare has deteriorated. And you are being less and less represented by the people that are supposed to be fighting for you. So I believe what's happening in Maine is a flashpoint, but it is only a flashpoint if we let it happen. It's February 25th, everybody. I think I started out the show with sunglasses. I'll end the show with sunglasses. That is because in spite of the darkness, the future is bright. It is. But you have to believe it's bright first. That's the show, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ignition News. Good show. A little bit shorter. Had to kind of. What the fuck is this person talking about?